Chapter 8. Jimmy Chases the Ghost. Philip and the two girls went to bed early that night, leaving Jimmy, who was restless, sitting before the fire. It was rather pleasant all by himself, Jimmy thought. The firelight was company, the glowing coals, the flashes of flame. He loved it all. His mind was busy with thoughts of their good luck. Seriously, too, for Jimmy could be very serious. He thought of what plans he should make. Something might open here. If it did not, he could be more easily spared than Phil and send home every cent he did not have to have. Still, there was that dandy boat for a while, till everything froze up. Could that be utilized to make money? He would have to ask Pat. He had gone over all this before, but now to think it out here alone. Gosh, but he felt equal to the world. Satisfied with his decision, he picked up the encyclopedia with its article on Michigan and finished it. Facing the fire, Jimmy slumped comfortably in the big easy chair. He was quite content. Pictures of the shore already explored for some distance, of the Great Lake, of the drives and woods began to fill Jimmy's mind. In the midst of these pleasant thoughts, he floated off to sleep. Suddenly something wakened him, and with difficulty he came to a realization of where he was. Chilly, too. Ugh! It was a few moments before he roused enough to move. That was an odd clicking sound. Was anyone trying to get in? He must be having a nightmare. Jimmy, yawning, stretched back still farther in the chair, which was turned a little to the right, facing not only the fire, now almost burned out, but Phil's desk to the right of the chimney. The lights had been turned out when the rest of the family left, with the exception of a small reading lamp on the table near Jimmy. This he had turned out himself after he had finished reading, preferring his thoughts and the firelight. It was now quite dark in the room, and hearing another slight sound, Jimmy suddenly roused from his lethargy. He had promised to see if everything was locked up. Perhaps someone was trying to get in. He had a feeling now of not being alone as he drew himself from his slumped position and suddenly stood erect, looking toward his left foot from which a beam of light surprisingly came. Amazed, he stood there with a smothered exclamation. Was he still dreaming? In that beam of light he had caught sight of a delicate figure in shadow and the shining of a silk dress. But the intruder, whoever she was, had also seen him. There was an odd sound and a quick disappearance back behind the curtain of the alcove. Hey, stop! Who are you? I'll not hurt you. Wait! It did not take Jimmy long to cross the big room, but before he reached the study, he caught his foot in a rug, stumbled, caught himself by the back of a chair whose rockers gave his ankles a sharp knock, recovered his footing, and plunged into the alcove, which was darker than ever. It took only a minute to switch on the light, but the room was entirely empty. He explored the four walls and looked at the bookcases. Ah! The window was open again. That was why he was so cold, was it? It was wide open. Someone could easily have dropped to the ground. His flashlight was not in his pocket, yet in spite of that, Jimmy leaped out of the window and sped around the house like the wind. She would go to the back, very likely. There was no reward from this trip in the dark. Jimmy went back, went softly upstairs after his flashlight, and went outside again with his keys. He entered the boathouse and even the cabin, so far unexplored. Possibly someone hanging around there had found a key. Quietly, he started back along the trail in the woods. He slipped from tree to tree, using the flashlight but seldom. It was of no use. If she were in the woods, she had escaped. Well, she would have to knock to get in again, and what was she there for anyhow? Golly, the green lady and the blue light! One trouble with Jimmy's decision in regard to the vision of the alcove was that he could not be sure he had seen or heard anything. He was certain that he had been roused. Then his memory became confused. Just when did he hear that sound? And hadn't he heard Penny say something about opening the window in the study for a little while? Was he certain, after all? He went over that part of the house which was used. The back door had been locked after their supper. He had done it himself, and he couldn't get in that way when he came from the woods and the cabin just now. No other window was up. He decided that he would not tell his brief experience until he could be more certain about some points. But it might be well for him and Phil to sit up some night and wait to see what would happen. Marjorie would be scared to death if she ever saw such a... Wait! What was it that Marjorie insisted she had seen? It was most peculiar. End of chapter 8.